Tikela, welcome to my YouTube channel. So let's talk about the timeline that Umncube was being asked by Nxumalo, the 6 p.m. cut-off time between him and uMaphisa. I guess it will be between him and uMaphisa and Ntuli. I want us to have a touch and go kind of vibes there, because now other people can like screw this for something else, and that is not where it is. So what happened after 6 p.m. on the 26th of October 2014? Because this is where the evidence gets extremely interesting. A witness can tell a court what he personally saw, but when that witness says, that was the last time I saw him, suddenly the timeline has a very clear boundary. And that boundary could matter very well when it comes to the Senzo Meyiwa trial. Now, welcome back to the Noni M podcast. Today, we are breaking down a fascinating piece of testimony concerning the movements of a person on that critical day, and more importantly, what the witness could not tell the court. Okay, now, why am I doing this video? It's because I want you guys to see how truthful Mncube has been when it comes to this. Even if you feel like he lies and other things, but when it comes to the cell phone evidence and what he says, he's been very honest about digital footprint. Now, according to the evidence being put before the court, after the group had been at George Gore Hostel in Johannesburg, they proceeded to Maphisa's place of residence. I forgot the name. Now, Maphisa was allegedly dropped off at a corner St. Clair and Judy Street, and the estimated time after 6 p.m. And the Mncube was very clear on that crucial point, that it was after 6 p.m. Now, that was the last time he saw Maphisa on the 26th of October. Now, stop right there. That is why I'm saying they are very honest when it comes to this. Because this is where the evidence becomes fascinating. I know what happened to him after that. I don't know what happened to him. No. Yabona, he's not guarding Maphisa by all means necessary, as if we are mtetelela. Do you understand? He's saying after 6 o'clock, if what happened to him, then I don't know. Yabo? Now, because we dropped him off where he stayed and we went back to George Gore. The distinction is absolutely crucial and critical there. Now, think about it. Before the drop-off, the witness has first-hand knowledge, and he potentially tells the court where they were, who was present, how they traveled, and where the person was dropped. But after that, there's a timeline gap between Yena and Maphisa. Maphisa will come and tell the court where he was, what was happening after that. Now, I'm sure his phone must have indlela yokumchaza ukuthi ebekuphi. And whatever you are dealing with, whenever you are dealing with a case, that depends heavily on reconstructed movements, communications, and locations. What happens inside the gap becomes extremely important. This does not automatically prove anything. It does not automatically clear anyone, but it tells us exactly where the witness' personal knowledge ends. But what I like is that there's no shielding. We are just telling the truth. I don't know if you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say. There is no one who's shielding anybody here. They are just telling their truth. I dropped him off there. We dropped him off there. We went back to our own respective places. Now, what can the telecommunications evidence potentially establish? That's a completely different evidential question, because the cell phone records may potentially help investigators reconstruct activity after the witness' last personal observation. So if there is more information that they need regarding Maphisa, why do I call him Mashiba? Maphisa, they must actually go and get his own Section 205 and ask questions regarding his Section 205. And that is why the timeline is very important. Now, if the evidence when it comes to Maphisa ends at 6 p.m., then whatever evidence exists after that point has to be explained by Maphisa himself, and there's nothing Mncube can do about that. Now, if people come here and This is where the trial is really getting interesting. In this case, in a case where movements and timing are heavily scrutinized, a few hours can become really important. The difference between 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and later isn't just a few numbers on a clock. Those times can determine where the person was, etc. So hence I'm saying the crucial point here is that they need Mapisa's Section 205 so that they can establish how he was moving. Do you understand? But time is going to tell what Nxumalo is going to do with that information. And I like that as much as these guys are supporting each other, I like that everyone is like, I'm going to speak until where I can. I don't want to be speculating about the presence, the absence. I like that. I like that. And there is something else. The times like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and later, yeah, those times can determine whether different pieces of evidence actually fit together. But a cell phone record is not automatically a complete story, but it can show you, it can justify certain things. A cell phone can tell us about network activity. It does not necessarily tell us by itself who physically possessed the device at that moment. That is why the surrounding evidence matters. Witness testimony, cell phone records, tower information, statements, movement, evidence, and the chronology. All of it has to be tested. That is why I say it will be very crucial to bring Mapisa's Section 205 because it will help a lot into determining a lot of things when it comes to, it will help the state to actually see Mapisa was not, Umapisa Untuli, actually Umapisa Nomncube, their Section 205 should be the same for that date. They should be, Umapisa is waking up from a certain place to a certain place, and then all the places that they were together, and then moving to, what is this place in Vosloorus? Mazibuko Hostel, and then from Mazibuko Hostel to come back to George Koch, and then from George Koch they go and drop off Umapisa. And then there was a place where they went to buy liquor, and also that would assist a lot. I don't know, because in the sense of Mewa trial, sometimes the most important evidence isn't what the witness says happened. Sometimes it's the moment when the witness says, my Section 205 will assist. Yeah, but so I think it will be very wise to get everything together so that they can see who was where, who was doing what, and it is quite important for them to find all those details. And that is exactly where the next piece of evidence has to take over the Section 205 of Mapisa. It's not about declaring anyone guilty or innocent. It's about following the evidence second by second and asking whether the timeline actually makes sense. Now, if you want more of the courtroom breakdowns with the legal jargon, I try. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not anything. My name is Noni Matigela. Welcome to the Noni M podcast. Hit that notification bell so that you don't miss anything, and tell me in the comment section what happened to Mapisa after 6 p.m. I guess we will get that information from Mapisa himself because Umncube could not provide us with that information. What are your thoughts when it comes to this? Let's talk comment section. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, watch the ads that are coming through. It helps a lot for the channel to grow. I appreciate you.